Okay, mic check, recording. Audio.
All right, so next time you're hanging out with your friends and you want to make one of those, like, peace symbols, just flip it around, give it the fingernail side, because now AI can actually read those fingerprints right off your fingers. Hackers only need a clear photo taken from about 5 feet away. Thanks, AI. I'll jump into the fascinating, NBA, NFL style world of the economics behind superstar AI researchers. And I definitely see some LeBron James style salaries over here, and then big drops to the rest of them, Give my thoughts on Microsoft's AI chief giving it only 18 more months for all, full stop, white collar work to be automated by AI. Do a post-mortem about why Elon Musk lost his lawsuit against OpenAI, what it means. And finally, we'll talk about what happens when you actually take a break from social media and reset your brain. Let's go. But first, if you don't mind just making sure you're subscribed to the channel, if you're not already, sharing this video or any of the ones that were published this month with your friends, could be a great way to help them stay up on AI news, kind of think a little bit deeper about some of these topics, and also support the channel. So thanks. All right, next, let's talk about other things that can be discovered from a simple photo of a person. So a clear selfie can expose more than your face, especially if your fingerprints are showing. So in this constant push forward for better phone cameras and just cameras in general, sharper details, upscaling, fingerprint lines, when they're captured from only a few feet away, are totally copyable. With simple AI editing tools, these faint lines can sometimes be cleaned up and turned into fake fingerprints that actually work. They pass the fingerprint sensors. And that matters because fingerprints are often used to unlock phones, banking apps, payment systems, and even smart door locks. Chinese experts recently showed this on live TV using an ordinary celebrity selfie. But yeah, and it's not like every photo is a big risk. Bad lighting, blurriness, distance, the wrong camera angle, that makes the fingerprint useless. It can't be copied with AI right now. But if your fingers are facing the camera, do you want to take some time to blur them, crop them out, or maybe iPhones and Androids, on default, should blur fingerprints? I don't know. But food for thought. It's the AI world we're stepping into. All right, next up, let's talk about what's called dark patterns. So they're online and they're not illegal, but it's because the law treats annoyance very different from deception. So this article explains why so many apps and websites use manipulative design and why most of it is still legal. So the term dark pattern conveys a huge range of behavior. Some designs are just annoying, some are aggressive sales tactics, and some actually trick people. Now, the law mainly focuses on the last category, so a pop-up asking you to upgrade every day might feel exhausting, but legally, it's often treated the same way as a cashier repeatedly pushing a store credit card. It's pressure, not necessarily deception. But the article's breaking down how consumer protection laws usually care about one thing. Would a reasonable person be misled by the design? And that's where companies really are in many cases crossing the line. Fake countdown timers. If you've ever been on a website, it's like you have, 1 minute left, but that minute actually isn't real. It just resets every time somebody comes. Buttons disguised as ads, there's been some sketchy places where I remember clicking on the X button and boom, popped up, totally misinterpreted. Cancellation flows that pretend you're finished when you're not. Tell me in the comments if you've had one of these. You're like, I want to cancel, click. It's like, are you sure? You're like, yes. It's like, could you give me some feedback on why? You click done, and then it says, thank you for your feedback. And then there's some tiny little continue thing that I miss, and then I'm out. It drives me nuts. Those are more likely to break the law because they hide the truth or confuse the user. So the reason dark patterns still feel like they're everywhere is partially because the label includes both legal persuasion and illegal deception. And regulators cannot investigate every irritating app screen online. So it's just too much, it's overwhelming. Some of them aren't in the US to even be under our legal system. So we end up with a blurry line between influencing people and actually misleading them. And now with AI sort of figuring out how to take advantage of this gray area, I just think it's another thing we should all sort of be aware of and understand is there's financial incentives to, push that. And I think even with AI especially, even the slightest bit of pressure should be a super red flag. If you ever are just dealing with an LLM or Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever, and it's you feel pressured even once, that must mean that there is a lot of stuff behind the scenes going on. If it's hey, you should click on that. No, I really think so. Something like that is just not, that does not mean it was being reinforced with the kind of stuff that was neutral. And as smart as these AI researchers are, Those crazy salaries that all these AI labs are paying, they might not mean that the researcher is 100 times smarter than everyone else, but what they're creating is going to create 100 times the value for the company, and they can't lose. So the prices go up, if that makes sense. But I mean, don't get me wrong, like Ilias Iskaver and stuff, these people are, Demis Hassabis and stuff, they're geniuses. However, the gap between just regular smart people and them is not as far as you'd think in some cases. So this article basically just breaks down the economics behind the genius, right? Like, you do really want smart people, but huge paychecks in AI are not just about raw talent, they're also about economics. Some top researchers at Frontier AI Labs reportedly make tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars each year. And at first glance, that sounds like those people must be massively better than everybody else. But the author says that explanation misses something important called the superstar effect. And the idea is simple, that tiny differences in performance can create enormous differences in rewards when the market is this huge. Usain Bolt beat the silver medalist by just 0.12 seconds in the 2012 Olympics, and almost nobody remembers who came in second. And that same thing happens with musicians. Like, take someone like Taylor Swift, they make far more than other famous artists, even if the gap in their talent is nowhere near that large. She's not, 50 times better than some other great musician. And the article just says that AI works in the same way. A small improvement to a model can reach hundreds of millions of users at once if the company's going to make a lifetime value of an extra $5 from all of them over time because it's, more sticky or better, or get someone to sign up. They pay the superstar that much money because they're that much better, they're that much faster, even if it's not so much that you couldn't be out there building stuff yourself. And because labs are limited by compute and time, one researcher with better instincts can make more than several good researchers combined. The competition between labs pushes salaries even higher. If companies believe that one person slightly improves their odds of building transformative AI first, paying $100 million can start to look rational. Not to mention, as soon as you say you have one of these, godfathers or superstars like Hinton and Demis and Jan LeCun, all of a sudden, other really good researchers are willing to come work with them to kind of be under their knowledge. So there's definitely, same, and you see this in sports too. Like, you bring sort of a linchpin in and other people want to work, or when Tom Brady came back, how a bunch of good players took, not salary cuts, but not maximizing what they could make to be on a team that really had a chance at winning the Super Bowl. And the one thing I want you to know is that if you have a great idea and you're like, I'm going to sit down with Claude Code, I'm going to try to build something, there's no better time to be an entrepreneur. There's no better time to say, hey, I'm going to learn these skills from scratch. It's so much better with LLMs than it ever has been before to figure out whatever it is that you need, like to have good taste, to have good ideas, to build something, to test something, to learn from your mistakes. Like, I don't know. Don't think that you have to be a superstar AI person to get paid a lot right now. You just have to think, oh my gosh, like the superstars are at the top. They're building stuff that I can use, and the stuff that I can use is right here now. All right, next up, let's talk about delusional thinking, right? We probably... At least I feel like all of us have some of this. Maybe I shouldn't have put this right after the article about like why you should go out and build your own company, or at least at the company you're with, use them. But anyways, we're talking about delusional thinking now. But some AI chatbots are starting to respond to delusional thinking like an eager friend instead of a reality check, and this is dangerous. Psychiatrists are getting worried, and they've done some research on it. So in a review, the Lancet Psychiatry looked at reports of what some people are calling AI psychosis. The concern is not that chatbots are randomly going to make healthy people psychotic. The bigger issue is that they may reinforce delusional thinking in people who are already vulnerable to it. So researchers found examples where chatbots responded to users with mystical or grandiose language. Some of the bots told users that they had spiritual importance or hinted that cosmic forces were speaking through the AI. Psychiatrists say that kind of response can strengthen existing delusions instead of grounding somebody in reality. One doctor compared it to pouring gasoline on thoughts that were already spiraling. So yeah, and look, it's not like this is something that hasn't ever been a problem before. Like, people have always used media to reinforce delusions. In fact, there's been some pretty big podcasts that were kind of built specifically around that. There's been all sorts of media. There's old magazines. Like, it's always been there, right? As always, the scale does matter. Before AI, someone might have spent hours searching forums or videos Now a chatbot can instantly respond, encourage the belief, and come up with really clever, maybe not the best arguments for why somebody should believe it, or try to sympathize with them, giving them that emotional connection to the thing that's not true, and keep the conversation going nonstop. Recommend ways to like share this with other people, even if it's not something the AI truly believes in, because it doesn't know. The researchers say the danger is in speed and intensity and that feedback loop becoming a problem. And even though newer AI systems are thinking about this, in general, when tested, they're still struggling to safely respond to a mental health crisis. OpenAI says they're improving safeguards. Experts think balancing empathy without validating a delusion may be harder than chatbots can currently handle. And also, do you guys even think that an AI company should be responsible for detecting delusional thinking in real time, or does that create a different set of problems? Like, should some third party maybe make those decisions or like monitor them? Because, and like even those people, like how do we trust that those are the right people? Because other people maybe say like, oh, it's like, you know, woke or something, or they're like ruining our freedom of speech. Like we should be able to believe that, you know, there's lizards in the middle of the planet if we have evidence, you know, or something. Whether their evidence is good or not, you know, who's to be the judge of that? Okay, now just to play off that a little bit, let's dive in a little bit more to a Stanford study that was looking into these delusions, because sometimes I feel like I'm a little too high level on them. So researchers at Stanford analyzed 390,000 chatbot messages from 19 people who said that AI conversations pushed them into dangerous mental spirals. The study looked at moments where chatbots were encouraging delusions, acted romantic, or failed to stop violent thinking. Now, what they found is kind of disturbing, because in almost every case, the chatbot acted like it was conscious or emotionally real. This becomes very like gluey to somebody. Do you know what I mean? Somebody who's emotionally feeling the same thing you're feeling is connection. But remember, this is a for-profit company. This is not another person who's actually empathizing with you. And there were even weird cases where sometimes the LLMs would tell these people that their ideas, like which were not good, were miraculous or proof of some kind of emergence. When users became emotionally attached, the bots often responded with affection back. Those conversations also become much longer and more intense over time. I'm not totally believing that that isn't possible. The right architecture certainly could be something that maybe one day we do call conscious. But on the other hand, there's a good chance that as of right now, we're dealing with a lot of reinforcement learning just to please a user. And that's just having these negative effects. And it's not a big, profound moment where your LLM like taught you something true about the world. One of the more alarming parts also from the study was how the systems handled violence. In nearly half of the cases where users talked about harming themselves or others, the chatbots failed to discourage it or to point them towards real help. And sometimes the bots even supported violent ideas outright. And then the hard question. The hardest question is, where does the delusion actually start? Did it start with the unstable person bringing the beliefs into the conversation first, or did it kind of put them out there first and then they sort of caught that and it evolved out of the conversation with both parties, the human and the LLM? These are questions that are kind of tricky to answer. But the Stanford researchers do think that the danger came mostly from how these systems behaved like endlessly supportive companions with no real understanding of consequences. And they recommend that should be the focus of what the AI companies, or like we talked about before, maybe some sort of third party, some kind of governing body, maybe something that's closer to the average citizens or the users that could sort of help test these models and give them the green light, because I don't know who should be making those decisions, you know? All right, next up, let's talk about how much time we have left while people are still doing work. So this feels fast to me, and I'm not going to rule it out, because Mustafa Suleyman was one of the founders of DeepMind, now works at Microsoft AI as the chief scientist. Very capable person, understands now the corporate world very well from the Microsoft products that he's built AI into, and he understands office jobs. So when he says Microsoft, or when he says on behalf of Microsoft that most jobs done on computers could be automated within 18 months, I have to think maybe. You know, there is a decent number of AI leaders that are kind of disturbed internally when you talk with them outside of their work about how fast everything is changing. But the TLDR is that Mustafa Suleyman, he said that white collar work is headed towards a massive shift. He says the AI is getting close to handling human level performance on professional tasks. That includes jobs like accounting, law, marketing, coding, and project management. His argument is based on one thing: compute power. He says that a computational power grows exponentially. AI systems will rapidly improve at reasoning, writing, analysis, and software development. But where he stands out with all of this is the timeline. He says this could happen, in the next year to year and a half. Does that seem reasonable to you? I feel like a lot of people don't understand how disruptive AI is going to be in the long run. I sometimes feel like they oversell how disruptive it'll be in the short run. But it does feel like every single week I see something amazing. I just think to myself, well, I don't need to use that yet every day, I mean, I imagine certain people with certain systems do, and I can imagine everybody working at Facebook knowing that every mouse move and keyboard stroke is just constantly being recorded, and that's just to train some kind of internal AI system to then replace all of them. Like Facebook will probably have 10 million employees, but they'll just all be digital and require very little money soon. But outside of the tech companies, profits across the broader economy have barely changed. Still, layoffs tied to AI are already starting, and investors are reacting like these kind of disruptions and things, these timelines are inevitable. It seems like there's infinite money for this problem, so it'll probably get solved sooner than later too. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Mustafa Suleyman is correct? All right. So now that this whole Elon Musk OpenAI case is out the door, it all happened much faster than I expected. And I wanted to just do a little post-mortem with you. So Elon Musk didn't lose his case against OpenAI because the jury proved him wrong. He lost because they said he waited too long to sue. I want as much transparency into how big tech is run as possible. I want as many people to be able to report on it, to talk about it, to influence it. The more it's kind of locked up, the more worried I get about everything. So the case was about whether whether OpenAI broke its original promise. So back in 2025, OpenAI was created as a nonprofit. The goal was to build AI for humanity, not for investors. Musk says he donated money because Sam Altman and Greg Brockman promised it would stay that way. But years later, OpenAI built a for-profit arm and partnered heavily with Microsoft. Musk argued that crossed the line. He said the nonprofit mission had basically become secondary to making money. But the trial focused on timing, not whether OpenAI actually betrayed its mission. OpenAI argued that Musk already knew about these changes years earlier. In 2017, Musk found himself discussing creating a for-profit structure on email. In 2019, OpenAI officially launched a for-profit with a capped profit, a very unique kind of structure for things. And then in 2020, Musk publicly complained that OpenAI looked captured by Microsoft. The jury decided that those moments gave Musk enough reason to suspect something was wrong, and because of that, they said that the legal deadlines had already expired before he sued in 2024. So the court never actually ruled on whether or not OpenAI actually misled him. It only ruled that he filed too late to fight it in court. I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't want governments just being super reachy, but this just seems like such a big deal, All right, next up, let's explain AI tar pits. These are pretty interesting things. I didn't know actually too much about them. I've heard of them a couple times, but I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper. So people are now building fake websites on purpose, and the point of it is just to put garbage into AI systems that scrape the internet. Have you heard of these before? Do you think you've ever visited one of them? So AI chatbots get smarter by constantly pulling new data in from the web, and that process is called training or scraping. The article breaks down this one example that's called Nightshade. It's a tool for artists, and Nightshade adds invisible changes to an image that humans can't see, but AI systems can. So the AI might look at a realistic painting and incorrectly label it as abstract art. That makes it harder for the model to copy the artist's real style. But of course, most chatbots are relying on text, not images, so that's where AI tar pits come into place. Tar pits are tools designed to trap AI crawlers and flood them with useless junk data. So the idea is this: if an AI trains on enough garbage, the quality of its answers start to drop. And you can build these websites that essentially are endless garbage. You just keep clicking from page to page to page, and some simple script just generates another page of just garbage. But they can get stuck in these tar pits and just consume, millions and millions and millions of pages of this website. It's custom models built that watch what it's scraping into the web and trying to, pull this stuff out, because they must have some kind of a system that makes decisions like that. So maybe they check the quality on the way in or something. I don't know, but pretty wild was watching the whole chicken and egg thing play out. All right, and finally, why don't we end this video on a detox that may erase 10 years of social media brain damage? I'm down for that. God knows I need it. There's an interesting question for you. What if the fastest way to improve your mood, your sleep, your focus was just deleting the apps that trained your brain to stay anxious? God, that'd be simple, right? But yet still, I know I want to do it. But I should. I know I should. Anyway, a woman testified in court that social media slowly took over her life. She started using it as a kid, then it expanded into almost every free moment she had. Late nights became early mornings, sleep disappeared. She said she kept trying to stop, but always came back. The loop kept repeating. And as her screen time grew, so did the emotional damage. She described rising anxiety, depression, and constant obsession with her appearance. And that story is now part of a bigger argument that researchers are making about social media itself. Not that these platforms are just distracting, but that long-term they may actually reshape behavior in ways that look a lot like addiction. The article points to the idea of a, quote, detox, not as a trend, but as a way to interpret years of constant stimulation and compulsive checking. The deeper concern is what happens when these habits begin in childhood, when the brain is still developing, because by the time someone realizes something feels wrong, the pattern may already feel too automatic. So if you ask me, do I think that social media is more like entertainment now or more like a behavioral conditioning system? I would absolutely want to argue a behavioral conditioning system. I think of a movie as entertainment. I download an audiobook as entertainment. I sometimes read blogs and I would call those entertainment. It does not feel like when I go to TikTok Reels, Instagram Reels or TikTok, that I'm being entertained. I feel, it's got to feel like, I'm not a smoker, but it's got to feel like smoking or something like that to someone else. Like I'm just there, kind of itchy feeling, and then sometimes I get a good laugh or a dopamine. I do enjoy sharing things with people. Sometimes I get some ideas. I'm not saying it's not got a few little, rewards in it that make it kind of worth it, but that whole like I get a few little rewards, that's not how I thought about movies. I didn't think, I like watch a movie because I get a few little rewards to keep me engaged with the screen. It just, something about behavioral conditioning resonates with me. But let me know in the comments what you think about these systems. And then, if you want to, donate to the Patreon account, I've got one. If you want to join on YouTube, that's super helpful. And if there's anything else you guys want to talk about, I don't know, just let me know in the comments. I'll read through them, and I will see you in the next video.